Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the May session of the Paulding County Planning Commission. This time I would ask you, if you have an audible device, anything that makes noise, please turn it off or to silent so it doesn't interrupt the proceedings. First order of business is we're going to review the minutes from the previous session of this body. So I'd ask the Planning Commission if you've had an opportunity to look at those. If you have any questions, comments, or requested edits, please make those known. If not, then I'll entertain a motion with regard to the minutes from April 23, 2024.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve those minutes by Mr. Callahan. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Wicks. All in favor? Motion passes 6-0 and 1. Sign those if you would. Paulding County Planning Commission is a recommending body. Works for both Paulding County Board of Commissioners and also for the City of Hiram in cases where an application takes place in that jurisdiction. Again, we will hear each application as it's brought before us, have questions and comments. Applicant is provided 15 minutes to make the presentation for their application, and they must be present, or their agent must be present for the item to move forward with consideration. Those 15 minutes are cumulative for anybody else that wishes to speak on behalf of the same application. In other words, the applicant may use all of the 15 minutes or conserve some for other people to be able to speak on behalf of the application. They can also reserve time after that is over for any rebuttal that might be necessary. There's 15 minutes cumulative time allotted for anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to an application or may have questions, comments, or concerns. In both instances, questions from the Planning Commission or the Board of Commissioners do not count against that time for either side. All comments from the lectern will be to the chair, which is myself. So if you come up, you have comments you wish to make, you'll direct those to me. If you have questions, you can submit all those questions. We'll take them down and try to get you answers if we can. Again, the Planning Commission is a recommending body, so anything coming before the Board of Commissioners application will be forwarded to the Board of Commissioners. Meeting date is, let me see. Yeah. Which day?
June 11th.
So June 11th. At 2 p.m. in this room. And again, the applicant would have to be present there as well for the application to be considered. If the application is before the City of Hiram, it will be forwarded to the City of Hiram's office, and a date of determination for the public hearing there will take place, and you'd have to contact the City of Hiram for that. So at this time, Mr. Robinson, if there's anything that I have failed to mention, please feel free. And I believe before we get started with the first item, you're going to step down. Mr. Leggett's going to recuse himself from consideration. Mr. Robinson, if you would.
Good afternoon. The first applications coincide with each other, and if it's okay with the members, I would be glad to read those both at the same time so they can be considered individually. This is one that had been tabled by the Planning Commission and also forwarded administratively for consideration. There's a couple things the applicant provided. They did hold a town hall meeting, which was attended by staff and company personnel and a handful of neighbors out there in the Mulberry Rock area, and they have provided a traffic study to our Paulding DOT. Okay. Application 2024-10Z, application by Oak Castle Infrastructure, Inc., David M. Tulin, requesting to rezone 7.35 acres from R2 Suburban Residential District to I1 Light Industrial District to allow for a precast concrete facility. Property is located in land lots 1163 through 1164, District 19, Section 3, east side of Mulberry Rock Road. The proposed site address is 303 Mulberry Rock Road. It's in Commission Post 2. That was recommended by staff for approval with 7 stipulations. and those are amended in your packets. And then now, to go along with that, is 2404 SUP application by Old Castle Infrastructure, Inc., David M. Tulin, requesting a special use permit concurrent to the prior rezoning application 2410Z to allow for a precast concrete facility to the existing quarry site. Property is located in land lots 1148, 1149, 1060 through 1164, and 1218 through 1220. District 19, Section 3. It's on the east side of Mulberry Rock Road. It's also 303 Mulberry Rock Road. It's in Commission Post 2. That is recommended approval with 10 stipulations. This application would be old business since we went through a hearing process. And also, just to note, we've added additional correspondence, including emails with concerns and opposition, and that is also in your backup material. Applicant's representative is present. I'm good.
Okay. Well, as we have had this tabled for consideration by the Planning Commission, what I will do is go ahead and open the floor to the Planning Commission to ask any questions of staff that they might wish to ask, or redirect if we need to, as far as making decision on this. So, does anybody have any questions?
May we call the applicant back up?
The applicant would come forward, please.
Good afternoon. Robert Walker. I'm an attorney at Jenkins, Bowen and Walker. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. I know you all have been dealing with my partner, Brandon Bowen, previously before today. He's on vacation today, and I'm covering for him, so I hope I'll do my best to answer any questions you have. We also have the senior project manager here from Brassfield and Gorey that can answer any site-specific development questions, and we also have someone from the traffic engineering firm here that can speak to the traffic study that was recently done.
Thank you.
Were you at the town hall meeting?
I personally was not, but I have talked to a number of people who were there on behalf of the applicant, and including my law partner, Mr. Bowen, and I've got a good sense of what occurred there, and we have an attendance list of the people that were there, and there were some questions that were asked and answered after the meeting, that were answers of which were circulated around to those people in attendance via email, and to follow up on some additional questions that were brought up at that meeting.
So there's 7 stipulations on the zoning request, and on the SUP there's 10 stipulations. Are y'all in agreement with all those?
Yes, there's no issue with the stipulations that have been proposed.
So on the regular zoning application, we would like to add, there will be no additional truck entrance. Truck traffic will enter and exit existing quarry entrance. I think y'all stated that in the presentation as well at the town hall meeting.
I do know that the plan is that there will be one truck entrance on the property. There'll be an additional entrance that'll only be used for cars only, is what has been shown. So I do know that is what has been shown and what has been proposed.
Well, do you agree to add that as a stipulation?
I don't know that I would probably need to talk with my client and make sure that I have that authority to agree to that as a stipulation, but that's a new request that has been made, and I don't have them here, but I can say that that is what's shown in the plan and what has been recommended or what has been represented and what is intended by the facility, so.
And then on SUP, the hours of operation shall be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. except for holidays and Sundays. We'd like to make that a stipulation on the SUP side.
Well, that is the hours for deliveries to the facility, and the facility itself there's a distinction between the hours of operation of the facility and the hours in which truck traffic will be coming to and from the facility. I believe the stipulation that was recommended by the staff was that there would be no deliveries coming to and from the property except during the hours of between 7 and 7. But in order for the facility to be viable, we would have to operate more than 12 hours a day in the long term. So that is something, quite frankly, that I'm not sure that I am authorized to agree to as a stipulation. If you're talking about the facility itself and it not operating more than 12 hours a day.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. It's 12 hours a day.
Yeah, I don't think I am authorized, quite frankly, Commissioner, to agree.
Mr. Robinson, you have any clarifications on these things?
Regarding the zoning portion, those 7 stipulations are more related to that portion of the property. The special use permit being the use itself that they're applying for, we did add 3 stipulations since the last meeting and after some of the comments that we've heard. That, and I can read those. It's number 8, owner developer agrees not to transport products or operate in the laydown yard areas between the hours of 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. And owner developer agrees to submit a dust mitigation plan for all operations during the county plan review process for approval. And the owner developer agrees to the use of the existing entrance into the quarry from Mulberry Rock Road with 1 entrance for vehicle parking only.
Okay.
So having read those 3, are you familiar with those 3 added stipulations?
Those stipulations are not in the staff report, which I have here, but the only one that like I said, the hours of operation are the sticking point that we would certainly have. Again, and Mr. Wilson can come up and speak to the design of the facility and how the access will be to the facility, and how that is actually been designed in terms of vehicular access to and from the facility. But again, there's 1 entrance that is going to be completely used for automobile or car traffic, 1 entrance that will be for the truck traffic in and out of the precast facility. So, no, to answer your question directly, I do not have those additional stipulations here in front of me. So,
Well, if this were to move forward, of course, a recommendation would have to be made, or a motion made, incorporating a motion for the initial application and then for the SUP, if they were to do so with the stipulations as listed.
I'm not, again, because I haven't seen those and had an opportunity to discuss those with my client, I'm not in a position to agree to those additional stipulations. I'm trying to do my best to represent to you where we stand and what our intentions are, but I do not have those in front of me, so, and have not had a chance to discuss them with the client.
All right.
Let me ask you another question. On the application for zoning, would you have a problem with this? Adhere to the plan dated May 10th, 2024 by Haynes, Gibson and Associates of the updated layout of the facility.
That question I would like to cede some time to Mr. Wilson to talk about. He's a project engineer. He's much better suited to answer site plan specific questions than I am.
They submitted the site plan, the one I just mentioned, so maybe he should come up and verify that,
Would you like to hear from him?
please.
If you would, please come in, sign in, state your name, and then address your comments to the chair.
Yeah, my name's Heath Wilson.
Thank you. And the question, if you would, Mr.
Yeah,
Aston?
you know, the main entrance was abandoned, and then the entrance was moved further east for employee parking only. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then all the truck traffic is going to be entering and exiting the existing quarry entrance. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. That's what we was wanting, just to place an additional stipulation, or place the updated plan by Haynes Gibson dated May 10th, 2024, that shows all that on it.
Yes, sir. That's what we based our traffic engineer study on.
Would there be a problem having a stipulation just with the plan, referencing that plan and that date with that layout?
Not to my knowledge, that would not be an issue.
Okay.
That is what we based our site plan on and our traffic
And that's
study.
and that's used at the town hall meeting, correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And that was, can you reflect anything about the hours of operation? You remember anything about that?
Yes, sir, I was present at the town hall meeting. The hours of operation were discussed as a 24-hour operating period within the facility, with a 12-hour window blocked out from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for delivery traffic, specifically over in the laydown area that is adjacent to the residential properties. That was discussed in depth at the town hall meeting.
Okay. And what about these, on the SUP, the three stipulations that the other gentleman wasn't familiar with, 8, 9, and 10, are you familiar with those?
If you'll give me a second. Okay. Okay, you can actually see a copy of the updated site plan. It's got some graphics on here that we're just looking at some of the locations to the nearest home. But the hours of operation, talking about the laydown yard areas between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. Was that your first question?
Yes. And then, of course, these other questions with 8, 9, and 10 pretty much coincides with what was presented at the town hall meeting.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Are there any further questions from Planning Commission to the applicant?
No.
Board of Commissioners, I'm sorry? Let's do the applicant first, but are there any questions from the Board of Commissioners to the applicant? Then we will come back around to staff.
I have a question for staff. My question, we go to the traffic study, to Mr. Jones, looking at over the traffic study. It looked like they just had some stipulations in there of what would be needed for the additional entrance, but it did not look like there was any kind of cause of concern for additional traffic load to Mulberry Rock itself. Could you speak to that, make sure that I'm understanding that the traffic study, that's what the traffic study actually indicated?
I believe the traffic study, how's that? The traffic study looked at mostly the truck trips. It didn't discuss pavement impacts in that study. It was mostly trucks that are going to be generated due to the site and the development occurring in the site.
James, same question. So is there any further questions to staff before we move on? Okay, at this time then, with regard to application 2024-10-Z, is there a motion from Planning Commission?
I make a motion to approve with the 7 listed stipulations and adding number 8 stipulation, the layout shall adhere to the Haynes and Gibson Associates Plan dated May 10th, 2024, as presented at Old Castle's Town Hall meeting.
Leah, did you record that?
Excuse me, are we allowed to say anything?
The public comment period is over. This is purely for the Planning Commission to take up consideration at this time.
Wait, was it public forum
It was at the previous meeting.
that we were aware of? Didn't know about a town hall meeting either.
Thank you.
And you guys are worthless.
So I have a motion from Mr. Aston for approval with the 7 existing stipulations with the added 8th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Will not
Do I have a
vote for
second?
any of you.
And I'm sorry, he made the second? From Mr. Callahan. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0 and 1.
This was a waste of time. You guys weren't helpful.
As for application 2024-04-SUP, do I have a recommendation motion
I make a motion we approve.
with the
It
10
would be
stipulations?
10 listed stipulations.
I have a motion from Mr. Aston to approve with the 10 listed stipulations. Do I have a second?
And I'll second as well.
Second from Mr. Callahan. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0 and 1. The motion passed.
Excuse me, Mr. Palmer, we never got any emails back on anything, or any questions we had at our town hall. No one has had any, he said he emailed us, no emails at all.
Yeah, we did have several
And
questions
since
that
this,
are not
we don't have,
answered.
since we can't talk now, he should at least respond to our emails.
If you want to speak with him after the meeting is over, you may do so.
You see the commission meeting.
We'll give it a moment.
You want site plan, Chris? You want site plan?
For the applicant, this application will be forwarded to the next Board of Commissioners meeting at 2 o'clock, I believe it is.
2 p.m. on June 11th.
11th. And the applicant must be present for it to be considered. Give me just a minute to get caught up.
Mr. Chairman, I did have one announcement that I just realized.
Yes, sir.
Applications 2024-16Z and application 2024-05 SUP originally was on the agenda, and this was off Prickett Lane for a rezoning to agricultural and to do a special use permit for an event center. Those have been forwarded by the applicant for further consideration by the applicants and staff. And that is scheduled for June 25th.
Okay.
Those applications.
Thank you. If you would go ahead and introduce the next application.
Next application is 2024-17Z, application by David Gentry, requesting to rezone 3.025 acres from R2 Suburban Residential District to B2 Highway Business District for the expansion of an existing business to allow for additional parking and distribution needs. This rezoning application is also seeking a variance to reduce the 40-foot buffer to 10 feet where the building currently exists. Property is located in land lots 387 and 406, District 2, Section 3. It's on the north side of Atlanta Highway, east side of Summer Hill Connector. It's in Commission Post 1. Staff has recommended approval with 3 stipulations. The fourth stipulation would be if you consider and approve the requested buffer reduction from 40 feet to 10 feet. And I don't have any noted opposition on this one, and the applicant is present.
Thank you for coming around. If you would, state your name and address your comments to the chair. Have you already signed in? Just make sure.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is David Gentry on behalf of General Meat Company.
Yes, sir. Please present your application.
What we'd like to do is we like to add on to our building where we're currently at. A lot of you probably know where we're at. We're in the old Brown Foods building. We've been there over 10 years now. We want to extend our warehouse out basically the size we have now, and we need to extend our parking lot out. So we've got we own the property around us, and so that's why we're asking for the zoning.
And additionally, you're asking for a reduction of the northern buffer from
Yes.
40 to 10 feet?
Yes, sir. Our current building now is on a 10-foot buffer, and what we want to do is basically be the same way the other building is, adjacent.
So it's to the east side of the proposed build-out?
East side? Yes.
And you were familiar with the 3 listed stipulations
Yes, sir.
that the counties recommend? You're okay with those?
Yes, sir.
All right. Are there any questions to the applicant from Planning Commission?
Yeah, I've got a question. I can see why you're looking for a reduction in the buffer on the building from the east side, but why the north side? I mean, you're not approaching that property line on the north.
I need to can I refer that to my engineer helping me with it?
If your engineer is going to speak, he simply needs to sign in, state his name, and then address the question.
I'll repeat it for you,
Why do we
Will.
want the buffer on the north side for?
Just sign in, Will, I'll repeat the question.
The way that, let's see.
Will, you see how the building,
It's not really a north, it kind of comes to a point, so this,
Yeah, but he
kind of
does-
northeasterly,
he doesn't need it on the north, he just needs it on the east. On the eastern boundary, because the building is just going to extend the same parallel as existing building is. So I just see, it really
yeah, I
only
mean,
needs
the
to read.
proposed building, I don't know, is that what we put in the, he's talking about, which, are you talking, can I move it? Are you talking about this line here?
That's the, well,
Because
the
that
east
line will have a
runs vertical,
40-foot buffer,
and then you got the
and all the
diagonal.
buffers off of that, I think.
Yeah,
So it's kind of a, I don't know how you.
yeah, you really
I don't know how
only,
you designate the difference between the east or the north.
Well, is the 40-foot reduction going all the way up that diagonal property boundary?
Yeah, that would be a 40, there's a 40-foot, it's the zoning buffer is
Right.
what the,
So
is
the-
what the request is
Right.
for, is, because it's really a commercial, future land use of 40-foot buffer is what they're, because it's already, the existing buffer that's out there, there is no existing buffer.
yeah, and
Where the building's at. So in order to keep that, continue that building in line with the existing building, you'd have to reduce that 40-foot buffer.
just, yeah, that's what I mean, just on that
Yeah.
one side, you don't need it on
Yeah,
both.
the north, I don't think.
Okay,
I can't remember.
because you're not showing anything going up in the area that would require the north.
Up in here, I think is what they're referring to. Is there's nothing that I know of that's gonna impact
Okay.
anything up there.
For the record, if you would go ahead and sign in on the pad there, and I recognize you as Will Rakestraw, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions to the applicant? Board of Commissioners, any questions to the applicant? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on behalf of this application? Hearing none, is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to this application or may have questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, then I will entertain a motion with regard to application 2024-17-Z. Please keep in mind there are 3 listed stipulations. There is a 4th for the variance request, if you're so inclined to make that motion.
I'll make the motion to approve with the 3 listed stipulations, 1 through 3, with a modification to 4 for the variance to be only allowed on the eastern property line.
I'll second.
So I have a motion to approve by Mr. Steele with the 3 stipulations and a modified 4th allowing the 40-foot reduction to 10 along the eastern boundary of the property. And I have a second for Mr. Leggett, is that correct?
Yes.
All in favor? Motion passes 6-0 and 1. And again, it will be forwarded to the next Board of Commissioners meeting. You need to be present for it to be considered. Mr. Robinson.
Okay, continuing down. The next application is 2024-01 SPSA, which is site plan / stipulation amendment application. This application by Rahim Bahami requesting to amend the previous stipulation in application 2020-16Z for delivery hours to remain at 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The property is located in land lots 101, District 1, Section 3. This property address is 4281 Ridge Road, Commission Post 2. Staff has recommended that if you choose to remove stipulation number 9, which is the one regarding hours of operation from 7 to 7, we would recommend that it only be adjusted to 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Is the applicant present?
Applicant is present.
Could you please come in, sign your name to the ledger, and address your comments to the chair?
Good afternoon. My name is Joel Larkin. I'm with the firm Sam's Larkin and Huff in Marietta. Appreciate the chance to speak with you today. This property should look familiar to most of you. The same property came before you last summer. At that time, the applicant was seeking to get some waivers from some of the buffers and other requirements on the property. And this board recommended unanimously for approval of that and included a stipulation of their own, and that was that the hours of operation be limited to 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. At the next level, there were some concerns about some development issues related to the DOT that ultimately led to denial of the rezoning application. Since that time, the applicant, working with its engineers, Jonathan Jones and Elite Engineering, were able to resolve the DOT and other site issues so that they no longer need any variances and don't need any issues resolved as it relates to setbacks and buffers and development issues. But when this property was rezoned back in 2000, and a couple of you were on the board then, I can see it, I think at least 3 of you. At that time, it was zoned R2, and it was rezoned for a pine straw company. And there was concern from some of the surrounding property owners because the applicant was already in business when it came before the board, and he was getting tractor-trailer deliveries in the middle of the night, or at least that's what they intended. So it was requested of the applicant, and he agreed that deliveries to the property, and they were talking about tractor-trailer deliveries, be restricted to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Somehow, ultimately, the restriction that was placed in the minutes and in the actual final motion was much broader than that, and it stated that the hours of operation would be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So this applicant, who is, well, let me back up. This property is zoned B2 right now, restricted to B1 uses other than pine straw. The applicant proposes to develop a convenience store and is in plan review and intends and is pursuing development in that manner. It's on the vested rights list, so there is no issue here about use of the property or zoning of the property. It's zoned commercial and it's proceeding as a convenience store. The sole issue being brought to you today is to remove or modify that restriction that relates to hours of operation. And the applicant has requested, as it did when this issue came up last summer when it was heard, I think Mr. Steele asked the question at that time, about what hours of operation, and we discussed that with you, and it was your recommendation that it be 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., which it's our contention is consistent with the other stores in the area. The applicant operates 2 stores in Paulding County presently, and is working on some other stores in some other areas, and those are the traditional hours that they operate, and those hours work well for them as far as getting things prepared in the day and closing up at the end of the day. So our request is that you recommend that the hours be restricted to 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., and we're prepared to answer any questions that you have on that. And I did speak with Chris about that, and I don't want to, and I think his response was that he didn't have any big objection to that, even though he had suggested initially 6 to 10. But he can respond to that.
I'll let you respond to that in a little
Okay.
while. Are there any questions to the applicant from the Planning Commission at this point?
Has anything been done with the property? Is there any new construction, or has anything been done at all since the last zoning?
The property, there's still an old house on it. They've been going through plan review. They have begun remediation. I believe they've removed the asbestos from the house in preparation for knocking it down. And it's not a house that anyone would want to occupy. It wouldn't be economical to, but this sits right across from the firehouse right there, with a strip shopping center across the street.
And you say it's in for plan review currently. When do you anticipate beginning construction and completion of construction?
Whenever we get can you respond to that? When do we anticipate that?
If you're going to speak, you need to come to the
Come on up.
lectern, sign in, state your name, and address your comments to the chair.
Good afternoon. My name is Sami Bamani. And to answer your question, so we anticipate to start construction as soon as possible. We have gone back a couple of times now in plan review for comments, and Jonathan Jones with Elite Engineering is working towards, getting all the tasks prepared that the county is asking of us. So yeah, ASAP is our goal.
Okay. Are there any questions to the applicant further?
So the recommended stipulation by staff is 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Do you not agree with that?
The 5 a.m. to 11 works better with the business model.
Yeah. Well, see, Grand's right up the road there, one of the main stores in the area. They're from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. One of the most successful convenience stores I know of at Dallas, Nebo, and Ridge Road. They're 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and it works very well for them. I know because I buy biscuits there on occasion in the morning.
And from reviewing it this afternoon, I pulled up the 2 businesses directly across the street, the Marcos and the Family Dollar, and they're both 10 a.m. Or 10 p.m. closures. So in the area, most stuff's closing at 10.
That's a business issue. I wouldn't presume to be able to respond to that. His other stores are 11 p.m.
So as the owner, are you acceptable to the 6 to 10 in addition to the 7, coming from 7 to 7?
We would really ideally love to be able to get to 11 p.m. at night. That gives us time to clean up and all at the end of the night. And our other stores within Paulding County do also close at 11, and our other stores also do open at 5:30, and that again also gives staff time in the morning to prep, and do whatever else is needed. So we would ideally really like to keep, consistent with our other stores if we can.
Perhaps a clarification, when we say hours of operation, Chris, is that the hours that it's open to the public, or is that the hours that the lights are on? If you can respond to that, if it's appropriate.
Please.
The intent of the STIP is that would be the hours that would be open to the public.
Does that help you?
Yeah. Ideally, if we can keep staff, maybe 30 minutes before, 30 minutes after, we can make that work.
But you could do public hours 6 to 10?
We could.
Any other questions? Board of Commissioners, any questions?
Okay, I think that's on now. Yes, as I recall before, there were several other stipulations on there. Where did those all go? There was one about co-am machines, as I recall. Also wanted to ask about, do they sell Delta THC products, Delta 8, all those kind of things? Is that something that your model promotes, or?
You're remembering when it came in for zoning, and that's where those stipulations were, that if that had passed. But, do you want to respond? I know we had told you before that in their business, they don't do the co-am machines. Never have, and they had agreed, I think they were the only one on that calendar that readily agreed with you that they wouldn't do that.
There's been a couple.
Yeah. That particular day, there were 5 convenience stores before y'all.
Right.
And that was the zoning where you were asking to go from the B1 to the neighborhood business.
Right.
That got denied.
Under that change, that would have resulted in less buffer on the back and on the side. That gave us more room to develop.
Okay.
But now we're staying under the B2 development criteria with the bigger buffers. And we just work the site to fit within it.
But just to clarify, all the other stipulations that were on this particular application
Are in place.
from that previous meeting are in place. It is only stipulation number 9 that pertained to the hours of operation that is up for discussion
That's not
today.
correct.
We're talking about 2 different meetings.
Yeah.
That other zoning that she's talking about didn't happen. So there is nothing that came out of that from a stipulation standpoint. So we go back to the 2000 zoning and the stipulations that were placed on it at that time. And all of those stipulations would remain in place, with the exception we're trying to change the hours of operation.
And I think what we're forgetting is this board turned it down 3-2 due to the close proximity of the residents in the area, because there's houses that's going to be affected. I know at least 2 are closely affected by this being past 7 to 7. So that's one of the reasons we put it from that perspective in the beginning. And that's the reason we turned it down in the beginning.
That was on the original 2000 zoning or the neighborhood business that didn't get passed by the Board of Commissioners?
Both.
Mr. Leggett, if I may, I've watched all those meetings, and the discussion there about noise and disruption was entirely related to tractor-trailer deliveries in the middle of the night. That was the concern.
There's still going to be noise and disruption due to the fact of the closeness of those 2 houses that's right behind it. That's the reason we specified the fencing, the whole 9 yards for that, because they're right next door to those residences. And that's the reason that the stipulation was to 7 to 7 in the beginning, and was the main opposition to it, in my opinion.
Christine?
I don't think you'd want to live there.
Actually, it's funny you would say that. I've been an active proponent for 2 convenience stores right near my farm. And
But you
I'm a
wouldn't be
property right
right. You wouldn't be right behind them, though, would you?
Yes, sir, I would, but but again, that's me. I believe in property rights. But I did watch those hearings, and I'm not trying to be, I wish I brought the audio clips. I mean, this is a standard setup. and the property owner that's actually immediately contiguous to this property supported this application when we came in last summer. I don't know if they've been heard from this time. The gentleman who has expressed the opposition that I presume you're speaking for, well, let me back up. In 2000, there were people who opposed it, and they don't live there anymore.
The zoning case was in 2020.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry, in 2020. The people who lived there in 2020 sold the house and moved. The gentleman who expressed concern when we were here last summer acknowledged that he knew it was zoned commercial when he bought it, and he'd indicated he was going to move. He hasn't at this point in time. But the configuration that we have of the store relative to residential is fairly typical throughout Paulding County. Your other two stores have a similar layout. So it's not atypical at all. It would be atypical to have tractor-trailer rigs at 3 or 4 in the morning unloading, especially with the backup alarms, and that's what was addressed.
See, my whole point is there's still going to be deliveries to that store with tractor trailers.
No, sir.
You're still going to be having trucks picking up dumpsters early in the morning or late at night.
We are agreeing to limitation on activity during those periods of time, so we wouldn't have deliveries after the hours we're proposing. And again, this property is zoned commercial now, so they're going to have commercial activity there. You've got activity around the clock at the fire station across the street.
All right, let's get back on point with this, James.
So, Mr. Robinson, the question. The 2020 zoning for this property, for it to be B2, do we have those stipulations with us today? This is one they're asking to pull and modify, but the remaining stipulations, do we know what they are as it applies to this? And then, Mr. Leggett, when this board saw this for the neighborhood business zoning, I think we had a larger time frame allotted than what we've got from staff here today.
We did.
So I think it's more restrictive than what this group had done for the neighborhood business zoning.
The other conditions, I think I recall, number one were related to dedication of right-of-way along Bridge, and I don't have them in the right order. There was right-of-way dedication on Ridge Road. There was right-of-way along Vaughn. I think there was something in the taper. There was a fence along the back property line. There was a buffer along the back property line.
Well, Mr. Larkin, hold on just a moment. Let's not leave this to anyone's memory. Do we have a copy of the stipulations from the previous? Can you at least address, case in point, to the stipulation that we're talking about amending and the ones that would still remain in place? Can you?
This was case 2020-16Z. It was in August. It was approved by the Board of Commissioners August 25th, 2020. Stipulation 1 was owner developer agrees all other B2 permitted uses, not including the applicant's proposal, which was a pine straw landscaping business, will be prohibited on the site, but it did allow all B1 permitted uses as a part of that stipulation. Stipulation 2 was that since it's a B2, that there would be no billboards, which was agreed upon. Owner developer agrees access to the development shall be determined during the plan review. Owner developer agrees to provide 60 feet of right-of-way along Vaughn Road, 30 feet from each side of the center line of the road. Number 5, owner developer agrees to provide 120 feet of right-of-way along Ridge Road, 60 feet from each side of the center line of the road. Number 6, owner developer acknowledges this property is within the mandatory Sweetwater sewer basin, and any new development of the property will honor the requirements set forth by the intergovernmental wastewater treatment agreement for that basin. Number 7, owner developer acknowledges that sewer is not expressly implied as a part of the zoning process. Number 8, the owner developer agrees to no access slash entrance on Vaughn Road. And number 9 was the one that they're asking to remove or to modify, is owner developer agrees to limit hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And number 10 was owner developer agrees to install a 6-foot privacy fence outside the required 40-foot buffer along the north side of the property.
Okay.
Those stipulations all remain in effect on the property today.
And with this project being currently in for plan review through community development, you guys are checking to make sure all that stuff's good.
That's
For all
correct.
three departments.
But what I will go back to now is back to Commissioner Galloway's question, and generally you are the one who mentions, particularly with service stations, here I am, service stations, convenience stores, that they do not provide COAM, and they do not, well, what was the last thing you said, the THC products?
Yeah, the Delta 8 and THC products and that kind of thing.
So, on your behalf, or you can ask directly if you prefer, but do you want those considered as a stipulation if they're agreeable to that?
Yes.
Are you agreeable to a prohibition of the COAM machines and the Delta THC products that Commissioner Galloway's mentioning?
No, ma'am, not at this time. They don't plan to do the COAM, and they never have, but we don't think that's constitutional to put that on.
Well, there's a request now being made by a commissioner for that, so it will be up to the planning commission to take that up or not to. Regardless, it will then be forwarded, if it's approved, if there is an affirmative action made to send this to the Board of Commissioners, that can be a discussion topic again at that time.
Yes, and we'll continue to have the discussion.
If it doesn't get a favorable nod, then I won't worry about it. Any other questions from the Board of Commissioners? Back to the Planning Commission before we set the applicant down. Do you have any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on behalf of this application? Hearing none, is there anyone here that wishes to speak in opposition to the application or may have questions, comments, or concerns? We'll note that we did receive one correspondence, it's just one, I believe, that was in opposition to this request for an amendment to stipulation 9, but I think it was generally voicing an opposition to that development type regardless. So that is so noted. This time I will ask, is anybody on the Planning Commission willing to make a motion with regard to application 2024-01-SPSA? Again, there's the one stipulation which amends stipulation number 9 from the previous zoning, and then there's been a request from the commissioners, Commissioner Galloway, to add 2 additional stipulations to restrict the use of the COAM machines and to restrict sale of the Delta THC products, if I've got that right. Okay. Delta 8 and THC products. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve with the one stipulation.
I have a motion to approve with the one stipulation. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Aston. The approval was made by, motion was made by Mr. Steele. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes 5-1 and 1.
Thank you.
And again, it will be forwarded to the Board of Commissioners for their consideration.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
who
sir.
was the dissenting vote?
Mr. Leggett dissented.
Mr. Leggett, thank you, sir.
Mr. Robinson?
Okay. The next applications also coincide with each other, being a rezoning and a special use permit. And if the board's okay, I will read those as we did the prior one. Okay. 2024-18Z application by John Moore requesting to rezone 3.753 acres from R2 Suburban Residential District to B1 General Business District for 1.691 acres and B2 Highway Business District for 1.917 acres for the development of a retail/office center and a climate-controlled self-storage facility with a fourth-floor office/conference space. Property is located in land lots 461, 462, District 2, Section 3. It's located on the east side of Atlanta Highway and south side of Azalea Drive, and the west side of Pace Road. We've had some calls with questions and some opposition noted from subdivision on the other side of Pace Road. And staff has recommended approval with 7 stipulations. The other application is 2024-06 SUP, application by John Moore requesting a special use permit on 1.917 acre tract for the development of a climate-controlled self-storage facility with a fourth-floor office/conference space. Property is located in land lots 461, 462, District 2, Section 3. It's located on the east side of Atlanta Highway, south of Azalea Drive, and west side of Pace Road. It's in Commission Post 3. And again, we've had some correspondence from the adjoining subdivision across Pace Road. The applicant's present, and also the SUP has recommended approval with 7 stipulations. The applicant is present.
If you would, if you haven't already, please sign in, but state your name and address your comments to the chair.
My name's John Moore. Thanks for letting me present today. So when this property became available to us, we looked at various options for development, and as is our practice, we came up and saw the folks at planning and said, what would you like to see us put here? And so it was recommended to us that we do a retail center and a climate-controlled self-storage facility. And we thought those were good ideas. We did a market study on both, and it looked really good for those to work out. Turns out there's a need for about 500,000 more square foot of climate control storage in the county. As far as the land use plan goes, it's certainly in keeping with the spirit of that, and our shopping center of 18,000 square feet would generate about 36 jobs, which is obviously another goal of the county. We were pretty happy with ourselves. We did not put a curb cut on Atlanta Road, and actually all of our access is right off of Azalea. There's no other residences on Azalea. There's an old house there that's on the property that hasn't been occupied for years. But we would be improving Azalea Drive. I think that's one of the stipulations, and we definitely think it's needed. But I think Azalea Drive could compete for being the shortest road in Paulding County. It's 600 feet long, so I don't know who the winner is, but we'd like to submit that as a possibility. Then on our mini warehouse, we have something pretty creative. We're hoping that it would become a multi-story self-storage facility with an office on the top floor, which would give views from there, would allow for about 13,000 square feet of beautiful office up there and an event center, and just for special conferences and that sort of thing. And so we put the parking in place for that eventuality, but it could either be 90,000 square feet of contained storage or that type of office on the top. Also of note is that there's nothing in the commercial zoning world that has less traffic on it than self-storage. 1.5 visits per day per 1,000 square feet compared to retail of 42 traffics per 1,000 square feet, in a given time. So we think that the mix of having us retail along Atlanta Highway and self-storage in the back is a good combo.
Thank you very much. I would go ahead and ask a response to the 7 listed stipulations for the rezoning application and the additional 7 stipulations that have been recommended by staff for the SUP. You're agreeable to those?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are there any questions to the applicant from the Planning Commission?
I have a question for Mr. Jones. The Azalea Drive is only like 12 foot wide. It's hard to get a car down through there. I travel that way a lot going to my chiropractor. And there's very bad sight distance to the west on Atlanta Road and also on Pace Road to the west. What is the options as far as traffic along Azalea Drive there?
One of the stipulations is to improve Azalea Drive to a 22-foot local roadway width. That's one of the stipulations for substandard streets regarding development. Obviously, there'd be coordination with Georgia DOT on the Atlanta highway side, and as obviously part of this plan development process, we would look at site distances, et cetera. All that gets looked at, along with all the other, departments in the plan review process. We look at items to make sure that they satisfy the development regulations.
Could we require maybe a red light or a roundabout in that Atlanta Road, Azalea Drive area? Because it's hard to get across that intersection there.
I guess what I would say in terms of requiring improvements such as, red lights, roundabouts. Obviously, Atlanta Highway is under the control of the Georgia Department of Transportation, so any stipulation you meet here, it wouldn't apply to them because they have control of that highway, not Paulding County Board of Commissioners. And typically, looking at the size of the development, the existing traffic that's out there utilizing Pace Road and the development traffic from this would likely not trigger the warrants for a traffic signal or a roundabout.
I know you're having issues with the mic, but could you speak louder if possible?
How's that? Better?
Better.
Okay. What didn't you hear?
You had some people behind you that didn't hear a lot of what you were saying, but you indicated that they would have to meet requirements from GDOT as well, and then you mentioned also that putting a stipulation for a traffic light. You can start from there if you'd like, because I don't want to restate it.
Exactly. When it comes to traffic control improvements on state highways, the Georgia Department of Transportation, that's their domain. Paulding County can request or stipulate anything, but it doesn't have any teeth. It's basically GDOT's call. We obviously have a very good relationship with the district, work with them well. There is a stipulation about working with GDOT through this development, obviously to ensure that their requirements are met coming out onto Atlanta Highway, but looking at the estimated trips that would come from a development of this size, it's very unlikely that the warrants would be met for a traffic signal or a roundabout.
I know there's an elevation problem there also as far as the elevation of Azalea.
Well, now through plan review, assuming this goes forward, but in plan review, would they be required to address site distance improvements at both intersections?
If they're utilizing it, again, I've been out there, I'm thinking of on the Pace side, I thought it was okay, but on the Atlanta Highway side, I know you kind of come down a little bit. But again, we would obviously look at all that through the development.
As familiar as I am with the roadway, I know that on the Pace side, you do have a little bit of an alignment issue where it intersects the road with Pace. But other than that, I think the site distance is generally okay. But I agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Leggett that entering Atlanta Highway poses some challenge.
Right.
Are there any other questions to the applicant?
I have a question back to Mr. Jones. On number 6, you guys will be asking them to improve the entire length of Azalea.
That is correct.
To 22 feet. You're aware of what they're saying there?
Yes, sir.
And that was cheaper than punching access on a state road for you?
It doesn't have to do with cheaper, it has to do with better.
Okay.
We think it's a better plan to not be.
I just thought that coming out on the Atlanta might solve some of their questions and concerns they have too.
Well,
as
if
opposed
you
to coming
recommend
out.
it, that's a whole other animal. But it's going to be it would be a ride in, ride out probably.
Well, the property, and the reason I speak to it from a safety aspect is, while the property is not in the city limits of Hiram, the jurisdiction of Atlanta Highway at that point is, and the police department does work quite a few traffic accidents along that route. So it's just something that I think needs to be looked at from a safety aspect. If you're going to direct people to enter and exit traffic at that location, the greatest amount of safeguards that you can take should be in place to try to open up visibility for that. We don't want to see an increase in traffic accidents if anything, with the improvement of Azalea Road, if this were to go forward, would hopefully reduce some of that. But
Yeah, definitely, we're not opposed.
I don't know that it will or won't, but again, we don't want to compound the problem.
And Mr. Robinson, are we looking at any kind of, when we have these opportunities, do inter parcel accesses between adjoining properties? What is to your southeast there? Is that Clark? Is that where funeral home is?
There's a small insurance company just on the south side. It is within a highway corridor overlay, or the corridor overlay district, which does require some connectivity. So that would be something that would be looked at during the plan review process.
Yeah, because you haven't, I mean, there is a decent access into West Side, into their pavilion. I can't remember what's directly across the street, if it's a funeral home or whatnot.
It's a funeral home.
Okay. Any other questions to the applicant from the Planning Commission? Board of Commissioners, any questions to the applicant? Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on behalf of this application? Or these applications, plural. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Or questions, comments, or concerns? Please come forward, sign in, state your name, and address your comments to the chair.
My name is Nancy Linder, and I live at 48 Rakestraw Mill Road, which would be the corner of Pace and Rakestraw. So the first thing is, I think it would work better if there is an entrance and an exit on Atlanta Highway versus two exits on Azalea. Because yes, as you mentioned, it is pretty much a one-lane road, and two ways go down it. And so it's like playing chicken. So it should be widened, Azalea, should be widened to two full lanes, and then plus a shoulder. Because it has deep gullies. My house would back up to the 4-story storage unit. And that would have, yes, it's going to be enclosed, air conditioned, but there's supposed to be security lights as required by the property owner. And I want to make sure that property owner is not having bright lights on my property. I don't want to have my house lit up. And entrances must be longer than a truck and trailer to get in and out of the entrances. So if it's a storage unit entrance, then it has to be width of a truck and a trailer. So not even just a U-Haul, a truck and a trailer. And 4 floors, storage units would block, and 4-story office buildings would block the corners of view from Pace and from Atlanta Highway. And it would be not in agreement with the other areas of that street. Pace is all residential, and it is zoned all the way down. Pace Road is residential. And there is a development coming up in a development has been planned and ordinance given, permit given on a little bit farther down,
A subdivision approval.
a subdivision approval, but they haven't started building. So that would be a lot of traffic. And, what other thing? So Pace Highway, Pace Road, when you enter in from Jimmy Lee Smith Parkway, you come into a spot that has a hill and a blind corner, and with drop-offs on both sides. So you are not going to be able to, if the GPS takes you that way, you're not going to be able to turn a truck and a trailer and not get into the other side. All right.
My name is Carlton Linder, Nancy Linder's husband. I live at 48 Rakestraw Mill as well. My concern is, again, as you mentioned, the lighting situation. Also, I mean, I would love to, I don't think I can ask you directly, but if you would want to have your house, how many of you would prefer to have your house across the street from a 4-story storage building where it's an open field now? It's not desirable. We want to make our...
The renderings were supposed to be included, the packet in the agenda, and that was not in the packet, so we don't know, the people don't know what it's supposed to look like, and I don't see it anywhere.
Anything that would have been included, and it's not to say that you shouldn't see those, but anything that would be included in the packet before the planning commission would be concept only.
Mhm.
What it ends up ultimately looking like is determined through the plan review process. That's if they get a favorable approval from here.
But I guess that was part of the introduction, saying that it was not going to be, a typical thing. So I just wanted to comment again that we don't have an idea what they had in mind.
Well, depending on what happens going forward here, of course, after the meeting, you can speak with the applicant and ask them if they have renderings they can show you.
And I would also agree with Azalea Drive is a mess, and having large buildings in that area would further reduce the sight and safety of that area. So I do have concerns. There have been a couple of accidents in that area, and I would like to see more on what's going on the Azalea Drive to make sure that it would be safe. So
Thank
I
you.
guess that's it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in opposition to the application or may have questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, I would ask the applicant if you would like to come back forward. I will say that a number of the comments that made from the lights to aesthetic appearance, also the design of the roadway would actually be something addressed through the professional staff of Paulding County and the plan review. They have to meet development standards regardless of what development they put on the site, so it would have to be looked at both from a DOT perspective, from a Paulding County water perspective, from community development, looking at it from the aesthetics, how it appears, is also something that the professional staff of the county would be engaged in. Ours is only looking at the proposed use of the property and whether it is acceptable in this location based on the contents and criteria we have to judge it by. But in that regard, I would ask, we've already made sure you understood that the rehab of Azalea Drive would be quite extensive, including 12-foot lanes, utility easement, utility access along both sides of the roadway. That would be the DOT design standard. You are aware of that?
We are.
Okay.
But I did want to address, if I may, sir.
More than welcome to. Yes.
Couple of things that the First Lady said. Yep, we won't have lights that are shining outside of our site. That's super not cool. And we would obviously, that's the law anyway, but we'd stipulate it, and certainly we won't have cameras pointed at their house. That would be actually immoral. We wouldn't be participating in anything like that. We can't do much about it being a 4-story building, but I think that addressed most of them. Of course, we already were improving Azalea, so I think that addresses all those issues.
Well, I think the lights for the property is already addressed through the corridor overlay district, which requires downward facing and boxed lights so that it reduces the amount of ambient light given off. So it would not be shining directly on anybody's house. Shouldn't be. If it is, then you need to report it. You got anything else you wanted to add?
No, sir.
Mr. Steele?
Mr. Moore, do you own, are you going to be an owner-operator? Are you selling the parcel, or?
Yeah, we aren't sure yet. So we've looked into a number of opportunities where we would continue to be. I operated 700,000 square feet here in Atlanta.
Okay. Is it self-storage or retail?
No, in self-storage.
Okay.
Yeah, in years of yore. But no, we aren't sure whether we'll be selling it. But we did submit renderings, and the product is beautiful. And I had reason to believe they'd be up today, but we'd be thrilled for you to see it. We think it's a very, very, very pretty product.
I'd like to ask Mr. Jones, is Pace Road already a road that restricts vehicles over 6 wheels? Are you familiar?
Pace Road is not on the county truck route map. The roads, it's not. It's local traffic only. Obviously, if you're making deliveries from your point of destination, you should take a truck, but it's not a county truck route.
Because this is a challenge meeting a school bus on it sometimes. It's, depends on where you're at on that road. Because they were around, it's hilly in some sections with quick curves and stuff like that. So that might be something considered during plan review, restricting it where nothing over 6 wheels.
The way the county truck route policy or ordinance is written, that truck's supposed to take the closest truck route to their point of destination. So obviously Atlanta Highway, which is a state highway, that would be the closest truck route to get to this facility.
Okay, thank you.
I would also say that was going to ask for Ms. Miller, who was asking about potential renderings, what your product might ultimately look like. Do you have anything that you might be able to provide them if after the meeting you speak with her directly?
Oh, yes, sir.
Just kind of give her an idea of what things would look like if this moves forward.
We have 12 renderings that have been put together.
Are there any other questions to the applicant from the Planning Commission? Board of Commissioners, any questions?
Maybe Mr. Robinson or Mr. Moore clarify where the Hiram city limit is in relation to the building?
It's literally across the street on Pace. That's their neighborhood's in Hiram.
Atlanta Highway is a product of spoke annexation from the late 70s when it was illegal to adopt roadways as part of your jurisdiction. That ended. However, those that were adopted at the time were still allowed to remain in existence. So Atlanta Highway, up to the point of Marietta Highway, Charles Hardy Parkway, is in the city. It actually extends on across and goes all the way to Paris Road, which is just down the street where Summerhill Road is, if you're familiar with it.
That happened in the 70s. I remember when that happened.
Right. I was in elementary school. You can't blame me for that.
Yep, it's not our fault either.
Would you anticipate annexation in the Hiram city limit?
It would have to be owner-initiated at this point. We've not seen anything, there's nothing that exists that's an unincorporated island which we could then compel to annex, so it would have to be a 100% or a 60% petition based on the situation. Any other questions from the Board of Commissioners? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
At this time, then, I will entertain a motion with regard to application 2024-18Z with the 7 listed stipulations.
I make a motion to approve with the 7 listed stipulations.
Motion to approve with the 7 stipulations by Mr. Steele. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wicks. All in favor? Motion. All opposed? Motion passes 5-1-1. The dissenting vote was Ms. Fitzgerald. And then another motion for application 2024-06-SUP. Again, there are 7 listed stipulations.
I make the motion to approve with the 7 listed stipulations.
Motion to approve by Mr. Steele with 7 listed stipulations.
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Wicks. All in favor? All opposed? You did oppose. Okay, so that's 5, 1, and 1, again with the dissenting vote by Ms. Fitzgerald. Again, this will be forwarded to the Board of Commissioners meeting on June 11th at 2 p.m. Applicant must be present for it to be considered. All right, Mr. Robinson.
Okay, as the trend today, the next 2 applications coincide with each other. Application 2024-19Z, City of Hiram, application Matthias Estevez requesting to rezone 14.27 acres from I-1 Light Industrial District to I-2 Heavy Industrial District for a proposed recycling facility, also with a special use permit to allow for the processing of imported used concrete, asphalt, and other stones. Property is located in land lot 666, District 19, Section 2, located on the east side of Metromont Road. It's on the north side of the Silver Comet Trail. It's in Commission Post 3. We have a recommendation of approval with 6 printed stipulations. And also, we've received some letters and correspondence in opposition. The other application, 2024-07 SUP, City of Hiram, application by Matthias Estevez requesting a special use permit with concurrent rezoning for a proposed recycling facility to allow for the processing of imported used concrete, asphalt, and other stones. Property is located in land lot 666, District 19, Section 2, east side of Metromont Road, north Silver Comet Trail, Post 3. The stipulation is recommended for approval with 5 stipulations. As noted in the previous application, there is noted opposition to this case. The applicant is present, and I know that the applicant has a pending annexation application with the City of Hiram. The applicant is present.
If you would, sign in, state your name, and address your comments to the chair.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Estevez. I'm the owner of the company Trust. Our company specializes on site development, demolition, and crushing. We do own 2 different yards, one in Decatur and the other in Gainesville. This will be our 3rd location. Our company has been doing this type of work since the year of 2016. I started this company by myself, and today we have over 80 employees. And allowing us to open on this location will create 32 new jobs to the City of Hiram or Paulding. We do follow everything that was requested by the zoning, having the buffer installed, 100 foot for all the apartments that are behind us, plus the elderly community. And we also offered to install privacy trees on the top of it. So our buffer will be as high as 15 foot with additional privacy trees installed on the top, and they'll be double stacked for us to make sure no noise or dust goes to our neighbors. I have spoken with also our neighbor Scott that's passing the comic trail, and he said that he does not also have a problem with us opening there. We do have letters from Metromont, I think Thomas as well. I don't know if I send it over. We do also carry our EPA permit that allows us to have this type of business and also create any dust as well. But we do have a game set up for us to make sure no dust goes to our surrounding neighbors. This is one of our machines that we use on most of our job sites as a demolition This allows us to spray water on any of our crushing, demolition, prepping areas, so we'll keep the dust down as much as possible. And also our crusher and screeners, they both have sprayers, allowing them to spray the material as it's being crushed. We are okay with all the stipulations that was requested by the county for the rezoning and the SUP. And we are going to annex the property as well into the city of Hiram. We also have done a study on ourselves with our neighbors, especially the apartments and the elderly community when we were in there. We did a decimal reading to the property as we are crushing, hammering, and pulverizing. The readings are between 55 to 59 decimals, and for both properties. So as we're speaking here, we will have a higher decimal. For industrial decimals, as long as we keep it as less than 75, we should be okay. And that's what's followed by the EPA levels on the state level and federal level. And we're licensed all over the state of Georgia to be able to do any of these jobs as well. If you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to.
Well, I usually begin with asking if you're familiar with the stipulations that have been applied to both applications. You have 6 listed stipulations on the rezoning, the 2024-19-Z. And then you have 5 recommended stipulations on the 2024-07 SUP.
I am with all of them, and also we have done the study for the road, allowing us to build a right and a left turning lane into our property. So our right turning lane is 150 foot, our left turning lane is about 210 foot that was requested by the DOT. Our entrance is also as wide as 100 foot, and the length of the entrance is about 295 foot going into our property.
So you're in agreement with all those stipulations?
I'm with all of them.
How long have you been in operation at this site?
So we done have some work in there. I'm not going to lie about it. But all the times that we have done work, we have never had a complaint from any of our neighbors, because all of them that has my number, and they're more than welcome to communicate with me at any time with noise control or dust control or anything like that. Especially the apartments. The apartments are the ones that are the closest to us, and we spoke with the GM there multiple times, just making sure that there's no noise or dust going into them, and if any noise goes into them, for them to give me a call. But like I said, between me and the apartments, we have about 1.5 acres. Between me and the elderly community, we have about close to 1 acre, if I'm not mistaken. And we are adding additional 100 foot that's requested by the zoning. And with that, we also are adding privacy trees on the top, double stacked, for us to make sure there's no noises going to any of it. And then also on the drawings, the only thing that we changed is where our office is going to be moved down to the cul-de-sac where it faces the trail. So that's where our offices are going to be. So that allows extra buffer to anything that surrounds that area.
Okay. Well, again, Plan Commission's role is to determine whether or not a use is acceptable in a particular location. I just wanted to find out, I mean, you're asking for a rezoning at this point, you're asking for an SUP, you've also got an application going before the City of Hiram. Full disclosure, I'm city manager for the City of Hiram,
Yes.
so I see all of those things moving, so just making sure that I'm being open there as well.
Yeah, I mean,
I state that I have had a concern about going through and getting everything you need in order after you've already been in operation for a while. Can you speak to that?
So whenever we applied, I thought this was going to be a lot easier process on this county. We did have a lot of going back and forth on it. So whenever we first applied, we applied as this area to have a landscaping supplies. But then as we went and did a little more study, we spoke with our clients in the front and other different clients on the surroundings that we supply, and we thought instead of doing landscaping, we should have a recycling company. So whenever that happened, we did we request to do more changes into our drawings just to make sure it fit the areas and the surroundings.
Okay. I'm going to relent and open to questions from the planning
I have
commission.
questions from staff. If this is approved today, who makes final approval today on this application, City of Hiram or the Paulding County Commissioners?
That would be the city council, city of Hiram.
Okay, so it does go to the City of Hiram? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
There is an order of things that has to happen. The council has not yet considered it for annexation. It's going through that process as of this time.
That was my question part of my question was, should we approve it now? Should we table it until the City of Hiram has a chance to look at this and see if they want to annex it into the city before we make a decision?
May I speak on that? Last
No,
time.
sir, you can let the staff, this is a legal question, I prefer.
It's a great question. Georgia law requires that all the zoning public hearings occur prior to the city making a decision in regard to the zoning, in regard to the annexation. So you have your zoning public hearings. Once those are complete, the City of Hiram will consider whether or not to approve annexation. And if annexation is approved, then the City of Hiram will determine what zoning category it will be.
Okay, thank you.
It's like a math problem, order of operation. Mr. Steele?
So a couple of questions.
Of course.
You said you have two other facilities. Can you hear me now? I said, you said you have two other facilities in other parts of this metro Atlanta area.
Yes.
What type of activities occur on those? The same thing you're doing here in crushing material, or is it the landscaping that you were talking about?
The same thing that we're going to be doing.
Okay.
I'd like to do on this property.
All right, can you explain to us what you're wanting to do on this, with it being I-2 industrial instead of I-1?
So the zoning required us to go from I-1 to I-2. With that allows us to crush materials like concrete, asphalt, and bricks. All those materials we reuse on either our job site or other clients that we supply as well.
Okay, and where does that material come from? Is it hauled into the site?
It's hauled in by different contractors as well. It's not only us.
Okay.
And when this material is completely crushed, where would it go from your site?
So after leaving our site, you can go pretty much to any job site out there. I mean, you can go to our job sites, other clients, residentials, like we do a lot. So there's not really a specific place to go. It's really pretty much who needs it. And like I tell everyone, the reason why we have recycling companies is to allow us to stop sending these type of materials to landfill and bring to us, because we can reuse these products. It's a product that can get reused multiple times, non-stop.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the planning commission?
Yeah, I got a question. Through the process that you said you went through, going from a landscape to now a crushing, recycling aspect of it, and I know that some of the comments that we've gotten back from the residents has been basically about noise and dust and things of that nature, and you've addressed some of those. How long have you been operating, doing the crushing aspect of it?
My company started back in 2016. The crushing perspective, I started back in 2017. I had a lot of guidance from other bigger companies than myself for me to learn what I am supposed to do. And today we hold about 9 crushers, 1 impactor, 13 screeners. So we've been doing this very well. I mean, we're not only in the state of Georgia. Right now we're doing works between Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, and parts of Florida.
But how long have you been doing crushing on this site?
So, like I said, we've done it a few times. I can't really lie about it. And I'll also like to say, for any noise part of it, I'll just leave it like that. There's no.
At least from my perspective, I won't place anything that I'm thinking or inclined to believe. My concern is being able to operate legally, and in doing so, it's the old question of it's easier to get forgiveness than it is to get permission. What inhibited you from going ahead and taking the route you needed to get the proper permits in place, get the proper zoning in place?
So after we started setting things up, there was a lot of changes, especially going from the old ordinance to the new UDO. There was a lot of requests that the zoning was requesting us to do. In the beginning, they only asked us to rezone. They never had a SUP on their mind until one day we got set up for a hearing, but we never got a date of it, because they requested us to have a SUP. And then with the SUP, we had another problem, because then we wanted to annex the property into the city of Hiram. So we had a little more problems to figure out how we're able to do that perfectly. So.
Is there any other questions from the planning commission? Yes, sir.
How do you deal with the concrete's got rebar in it?
So our concrete gets, we have two options. We either pulverize it or we hammer it. Most of our jobs that we did around this area, we prefer pulverizing, because that allows us to extract the metal that's on it, and we will recycle that as well. Just like one of the jobs we did here in Paulding County, we recycled over 38,750 tons of material. Out of that, we took about 82 dumpsters of metal, and out of the entire process, we only had 2.3% of waste going back to a landfill, just for you to have an understanding of it.
So your air quality permit states non-metallic. Are you still in compliance processing concrete with rebar then?
So you will not get processed through our crusher. I mean, like our crusher is made to, we'll prep it first to make sure there's no metals on it, and then our crusher will finalize anything smaller metals that goes through it. But our permits, that's what allows us to do. It allows us to do concrete, asphalt, and bricks, but does not allow us to do any granite work. That's what it states.
What is the expiration date on your air quality permit? Is there an expiration date?
There's no expiration. As long as we follow all the guidance by the EPA, because they checked on us, I can't really say a date, but they would just come out randomly and check our quality of work that we're doing. If we don't have the quality of work, they will shut us down, and we'll get a fine for that. And then we have to refile for certain things to make sure everything's done right.
Any other questions from the planning commission? Board of Commissioners, any questions? Thank you. You may take your seat.
Yes.
Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on behalf of this application? On behalf?
I'm here in opposition.
I'll get to that. So hearing none, anyone wishing to speak in opposition or may have questions, comments, or concerns, please come to the lectern. You will sign in when it's your turn. State your name and address your comments to the chair.
Good evening. Good evening, Commissioners. Chairman, I'll answer that question that he evaded. He's been operating.
State your name first.
Roy Sparks.
Yes, sir.
I own the property to the east of this property. I have spent millions of dollars putting in Sparks Drive and putting in a first-class industrial park for businesses of Paulding County. But yet, for years, he has been illegally operating behind me. Have any of you been down there and seen the dust cloud and the noise of what's going on? But yet, I spent all this money making a pristine-looking place, nice landscaping, curb and gutter. And he comes in and he says, proposed recycling. It's not proposed, it's been in years of operation. I ask that you consider this is also right around the corner from the prime heart of Hiram, Longhorn and all those places. This is a nasty operation. We've got one north of Dallas, which is fine. They're out in the woods away from everybody. This has been in our face for years. I have complained. There used to be a creek that went through the middle of this property. It's not there anymore. Back in the late 90s, two gentlemen bought this property, David Williams and Dave Brown. They were going to build a metal fabrication place there. They hired me to go over there and dig some test holes. I dug 6 test holes, Chairman. Every one of them, 3 foot down, would fill up with water. You couldn't put a septic tank on the property. So since then, the property has been sold 4 or 5 times. This property has been here before, but it never went all the way through. But I have complained to planning and zoning, and I ask that y'all consider what people like me are doing for this county and not slap us in the face with an operation that's illegal, that's been illegal for a long time. And I thank you for your consideration. I'll be glad to answer any of your questions.
Any questions to the speaker? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Rosalind Zito, and I'm a member of the Walton Mill community. We have 105 apartments in our community, and the residents are all 55 plus, mostly retired and trying to live our lives in a peaceful environment. Right now, we have all the dump trucks dumping construction material on land adjacent to our apartments. It is most annoying and it's disruptive to our peaceful property. Have any of you seen what is happening on this lot? There is already about 20 or more dump loads of construction materials already there. Why is this happening? With all the vacant land in Hiram, why can't they dispose of these materials, mainly bricks, cement, and construction materials, somewhere else? There is plenty of open land in Hiram, and not near apartments, in retail stores, restaurants, and movie theater. Also, the traffic. We don't need more dump trucks on Metromont Road. We already have cement trucks and 18-wheelers pulling out of Metromont carrying cement bridge parts. Have you ever tried to make a left turn onto Rosedale at 5 o'clock p.m.? Try it sometimes. Right now, we here at Walton Mill hear the trucks backing into the empty their loads with the beep, 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 beep. We have a crane that goes beep, 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 beep all day long. We hear the trains, the squealing of tires from the patrons leaving the movie theater on the weekends. We hear the helicopter coming over us. Enough is enough. I love living in the city of Hiram, and maybe it's time for this zoning board to consider how much they like Hiram. We didn't need 6 car washes within a mile radius, so neither do we need a construction recycling facility. And after talking with Mr. Estevez at Walton today, I am more convinced that this facility should not be permitted because he states that at least 50 dump trucks would come to the facility daily from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Can you imagine the traffic on Metromont? Can you imagine the traffic from 278? We here at Walton want to live our lives in peace and quiet and not have the worry about all these dump trucks and the traffic that we will incur. When we go out of Walton Mill, we can either go right to Bill Caruth or we can go left to Metromont. And it's hot enough getting out right now on Metromont, with all the traffic coming from 278 up to where Synovus Bank is. It's ridiculous. Don't forget, we don't need this construction facility here in Hiram. And don't forget, November elections will be here soon, and you don't want to make 105 people, old people, angry. Okay, thank you for your time.
We do have 8 minutes remaining on speaking.
Good afternoon. Roz, I do have to correct you. We're not old, we're mature and seasoned. We're seasoned. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm in the fourth quarter of my
If you would,
life.
please state your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Kathleen Maselli. I live at Walton Mills,
Thank you.
5606 Wendy Bagwell. Okay, I've lived in these apartments since they opened 9 years ago. And steadily, the noise has gotten worse. And I don't want to repeat what Ms. Rosalind said, but it is very, very difficult to hear the beep, beep all night long. I'm talking in the middle of the night, all right? We also hear the trains, but that's a different story. I have a few questions for the...
You will please direct those to me.
Okay, sorry. I don't remember well, we never heard of this till recently, and today, the applicant just came to Walton Mill for about 10 minutes that I knew of. So I don't know where he said he addressed all of us before. And then I'd like to also ask about the buffer. Do you have the buffer at the other sites of their recycling? And also, I wanted to know about the hours of operation that this will happen. And also, I think everything is a done deal because they've already got tons of stuff in that area. I went by it several times and didn't know what it was, but then when I found out about this meeting, I went and looked again, and I couldn't believe all of it that's behind, right up against our apartments. I don't think there could be a high enough buffer to take care of the dust and the noise. Could I have these questions answered, though, before
I will address
we
those
go?
once we're done
Okay.
with the speaking portion of
All right,
opposition.
well, anyway, we do represent 105 residents. You didn't want 105 people in here, so we only have 2 or 3 of us. But it's important that we are a big group, and this is our golden years. We want to live in peace and not have to listen to all the noise all hours of the night. Well, that's all I have to say, and thank you.
Thank you. To address the questions that you asked, the hours of operation are listed as a stipulation here would be 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And just giving you the answers based on what the stipulations currently state. And the applicant has said they are in agreement with the stipulations.
Okay, well, what about how tall is the buffer again?
We'll address that with staff shortly.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. There are 5 minutes remaining, just so you know.
Okay, my name is Jill Moody Dixon. I work for Walton Communities that own the property that's adjacent to the proposed special note zoning. There was another, in 2022, in January, we received another notification of the same request from the Paulding County Commissioners, just as a reminder. We do represent 105 apartments in that community. We do feel like that the proposed rezoning, the recycle will negatively impact the quality of life of our residents. This is a community that's for 55 and older, and it's 100% occupied and 99% average throughout the year since we've owned it in 2013, when we purchased the property and opened the doors in 2015. The crushing activities will create the noise and the dust, plus also the traffic from the heavy trucks coming in. I did go by the facility on my way here today. There is at least 12 dumps, loads of materials that need to be recycling. It makes me really question his honesty, if he will abide by whatever you rule today is the guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kelsey Wright. I also am with Walton Communities. I was approached several times by Mr. Matthew, and he asked me about noise and things like that. And after I really started to dig in and talk to my residents is when I really understood that it really was impacting them. We've received lots of complaints about the noise and just the beeping and how aggravating that can be. And so we're concerned that if you change this to a heavy industrial, that it will just increase the noise disruption, the negative impact to air quality, the heavy equipment, traffic neighboring the apartment homes, etc. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
We have 2 minutes remaining.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, my name is Lawrence Miller. I live in Post 2. We're currently working with a industrial facility in our community, and the word community means, it defines in the Merriam-Webster dictionary as community as a group with common characteristics or interests living together within a larger society. I just want to know how this particular industrial facility fits in as a larger society for that community, especially when it's around residentials, elderly, seasoned people. But I agree Paulding County should grow. It should be phenomenal, but it should grow in the best interest of everyone, not specifically just tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? May have questions, comments, concerns? There is a minute remaining. Hearing none, I will close the public comment portion from the opposition, and we will return back to the applicant. You do have some time remaining, probably about 10 minutes, but you can speak to what has been addressed now, or if you have any other things you wanted to add, it's your liberty.
Of course. I do understand Mr. Roy's question. We did bring a lot of stuff in the beginning, as well as thinking that this would have been a lot of easier way for us to get the process approved through it. I understand the county also requested us to clean the property. We cleaned the one side of it. The other side, we do have a lot of materials that eventually it has to get crushed. Going towards the noise part of it, just like last year, we were not at the property, and I can affirm to that because all of our equipment were on different job sites. This year, we were there for 9 days to precise crushing the materials. I can put it into that as well. But but we never heard any problems with any of the apartments that are closer to us or the elderly community until we came up to them. I did try to speak with them today just because I heard them about the opposition that they had today around 8:30, and it was pretty much over last minute, so I just tried to kind of give them as much information as I could about noise, buffer, and all that. I can't really speak up, I can't really go back to the past and undo things I did. I can only speak about the future that's happening. like I said, we'll create the buffers as needed. We'll install the privacy trees, double stacked it, to make sure the noise or any dust that won't go to other places like we do with the other properties. One of the ladies requested what we do with the other properties that we have. Most of the properties are 100-foot buffers installed with the same guidance as about between 10 to 15 foot high, and additional privacy trees that are double stacked. And those privacy trees can reach between the 10 foot all the way to 18 foot, depending on the ones that you choose. So we'll be happy to assist with that as well. I do understand that this is a kind of a different business coming into the area, but it's a business that's needed. Don't forget, we have two major companies that operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they're the ones that are causing the noises of beeping, and that's one of the things that they said. There's a lot of beeping. We don't operate during night 9 hours. My operations are between business days, Monday through Friday. Saturday and Sunday, I want to be with my daughter enjoying it. We do have everything set up to be able to succeed on this property. We do have, like I said, we have a major 30,000 gallon tank that will be put into our property that will also help us prevent any dust that will be created. We have other company called Aquaman. They're going to be the ones providing us with water, and we also have the Paulding County water system that will be attaching water into our property, where we help take the dust down as much as possible. If you guys never seen an operation like this, I prefer you guys coming out and seeing it, for you to guys see what's the decimal levels, noise, dust, and all that. Because if you're right beside the machine, of course you're gonna hear noise. But as you go further and further, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 foot, we're able to have dinner, have a great conversation like nothing's happening. I mean, I do understand we'll have beepings of trucks, our trucks coming in, backing up, but we'll be on the side of near the comic trail. So and our crushing is also near the comic trail facing the movie theater. So all the noise will be closer towards the road of Metromont. So that will also help with any noise ordinance that has on it. I do understand, like I said, we do have a lot of concrete that was also not only brought by us, but was left by our Metromont, that we did a deal with them for us to be able to recycle the remaining stuff that was in there, for us to be able to clean it up, the property. Pretty much that's the only thing I have. If you have any questions for me to answer before I...
Under your current operations, have you done any type of site plan filed through Paulding County?
So we did a site plan. The last updated that we had was back in 2022. The day that we're going to have the paper signed by the Paulding County, was requested to table until the rezoning, SUP, and annexation of the property. But everything was supposed to be approved on that day of it. So the day of it, like around 9 o'clock or 8:30, around there, they tabled until the approval of this. So we already, all the plans that we had, it's already being filed. So I guess we have to refile after the hearing again.
Okay.
But we do have everything in place, from entrance, extending the roads, to relieving the traffic, the dust control part of it, the buffers, that's also going to be in place. So,
well, have you had any kind of environmental studies done to the property prior to you beginning operation, or even during?
So we did it during, so like the EPA came out into our property. And also our company called Midwest, it's one of the companies that will help us out with any dust problems that we have. They both came out and looked through the property. They said there's no other problems into it. We did not dig into the property, like he said, because there was not a need of it. But the part where we are building our property into it, there was a drop about 12 foot before we raised it. And that's where we're going to put our office pretty much. And that faces the movie theater, yeah.
Are there any other questions to the applicant from the Planning Commission?
I've got a question. We've talked a lot about noise and we've talked a lot about dust, but I hear a lot about water. You know, a 30,000 gallon tank tying into the water system, and we've talked about having EPD or the EPA come out and do a site visit. But it sounds like one of your dust mitigation processes is to water everything down. So where does that water go and how are you filtering that? What are you doing to keep that going into adjacent properties and water runoff?
Of course. So on the water part of it, just because we have a 30,000 gallons doesn't mean we're going to use 30,000 gallons a day. The thing is made to, it's like a mist. So it's supposed to, drop water on the top of materials to allow the dust to come down. Last time, just like one of our properties, right now we're using about 1,400 gallons a day of water, and that's going through and we're talking about our crusher and our pile of rock that's being watered down, just to make sure we don't have any silicones, all those dust going to any of our neighbors and surroundings.
So where does the water go? Are you recycling the water? Are you capturing the water, recycling the water? What are you doing?
The way our property is facing, we'll be going back to our pond, and that's where we're hoping to get the water back into our tank. So any water also from the rain will be gathered and also put back into our tanks for us to be able to reuse it as much as we can.
Any other questions? Board of Commissioners, any questions?
I've got a couple of questions. I think the Planning Commission needs to answer a lot more questions before it's even submitted to the Board of Commissioners. There's a lot of history here. A lot of it's just coming back to me from 2 years ago. It's my recollection that the marshals actually did a work stoppage. It's my recollection that Cobb County would not let Mr. Estes do anything in that county. But I appreciate, try to say something positive. A young man that's got entrepreneurial, interest, but.
May I speak on the?
No, he is speaking right now, if you'll hold on.
Sorry.
That has the interest and the drive to operate a business, but there have been a lot of hiccups in this history, and I think the Planning Commission needs to know more about it before it comes to, accelerates in Paulding County. And just to be blunt, I think there are a lot of other places in the county other than this location in Hiram, which is one of our best commercial areas. Then just go out and look at his operation where it's located. Of course, Metromont's there, so I want you to be successful. I honestly do, but you've got a history, and the Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners need to be aware of it.
Any other comments from the Board of Commissioners? You had a comment you wanted to make?
Yeah, just one comment on the one way he said about Cobb County. I'm guessing he's talking about what's the Potter Springs. We did not get kicked out. I used the wrong term. The reason why I say I got kicked out of there. So whenever we were there back in 2020, the property that it's near Chevron has a little house. It's like a triangle. Okay. Our business, we're there just as an office, and a bunch of our equipment are sitting there. On that lot, there was a lot of accidents that happened. And one of the accidents that happened was a grandma with a child. She was leaving the daycare. This kid, about 17, 18 years old, crosses the red light, hits a person that's on the left side, hits the old lady after that. The old lady passed away on that moment. I had all my guys there that day somehow, and we tried to do our best as we could as possible. So it's one of the things I say I got kicked out of there. You can ask Potter Springs, because that's the area we were in. There was There's nothing that says we got kicked out. I just used a bad term saying I got kicked out of there because of that reason. So that's the reason the day after that happened, I chose to come into Paulding. That's whenever I found the property in Paulding. As I was driving by, I communicated with the realtor that day of it, and about 3 or 4 days later, we got the property under agreement, and now we purchased the property fully. So, and at no moment or any county that we have been, we never got kicked out.
All right.
And we can request anything that's needed if you want to go through Cobb County or Potter Springs as well. But there's probably was bad words, like bad term of using, probably whenever I came in to say hello to Mr. Robson, because that's the person I met whenever I came into the county to request a way to get that property approved for whatever we're using or intend to use on that day.
Mr. Estevez, we're going to pull the conversation back into this now. Doesn't seem to be any other questions from the Planning Commission or the Board of Commissioners, so thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Are there any questions to staff? Anything before I move on? Hearing none, then I will ask for a motion with regard to application 2024-19-Z. Again, stipulations, find my spot again. Looking at recommended 6 stipulations on that one.
I make a motion for denial.
I have a motion to deny by Mr. Leggett.
Second.
I have a second from Ms. Fitzgerald. All in favor? Motion passes 6-0 and 1. And then concurrently, there is a motion on application 2024-07-SUP.
I make that same motion.
Motion to deny by Mr. Leggett, a second by Ms. Fitzgerald. All in favor? Motion passes 6-0 and 1. The results will be forwarded to the City of Hiram pending consideration on the annexation request that's going before them. So there's some wait time that's involved there due to state statutory requirements. And at this time, we can move forward with the next application.
Okay, the next application, actually the final application of the day, is 2024-20Z, application by Calvin Lamar Jones requesting to rezone 39.106 acres from A1 Agricultural District to R1 Rural Residential District for the proposed development of 10 one-acre residential single-family homes. Property is located in land lot 1147, District 3, Section 3, located on the east side of Snow Jones Road, south of High Shows Road. Site address is 484 Snow Jones Road. It's in Commission Post 4. Staff has recommended approval with one stipulation.
Mr. Jones, how are you doing? Please state your name and introduce your applications.
Okay. I'm Calvin Jones, and I want to sell 12 acres of this land, and I had a real estate company list it, and then I had an A1, and the people want to buy it, want to break it down to 10 tracts, and they couldn't do it in A1, so I said that I'll just go ahead and rezone my whole 40 acres, which is 39 something, because the road run through it, and so that's the reason I requested to rezone the 39 acres.
Are there any questions to the applicant?
Mr. Jones, I have a question. So it's your property and you're selling it. So do you have a contract selling these 10 lots to someone? And are you going to keep the remainder of the property?
Yes, sir, I'm going to keep the remainder of the property.
Okay. And currently, do you have somebody buying these 10 lots to build houses?
Well, they buying 12 acres, they are dividing it up in 10 one plus acre tracts. And, they gonna put, I think you got a copy of how they're gonna do it.
Yes,
They're
sir.
gonna put,
I can do it, sir, if I can see it.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to get to a point here that they're looking to rezone the whole 39 acres. So we're seeing 10 1-acre lots cut out, but you're still gonna have a 7.25 acre tract to the west of the property. And then the remainder of the property, are you gonna live on it?
yeah, I live on it now.
Okay.
I live on it now.
But you are asking to rezone the entire 39 acres to
Yeah,
R2.
I'm gonna go ahead. That way, if I
Hold
ever
on, I'm
wanna
sorry.
give my grandkids or somebody, some, I can give them an acre plus,
Yes,
And
sir.
right now, I gotta give them 5 acres,
Yes, sir.
So I'm,
But you're gonna give them additional property that's from the leftover, from what's left of the 12, from what's left of the,
I think it's
12.8
12.83 or something like that. I'm wanting to sell that.
Okay.
And then the developers wanting to put the 10 1-acre plus tracts in, and, then I'm gonna keep the rest of it, 'cause I live on it.
yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Do you have the property in the land covenant now, or?
Yes, sir, I gotta break it when I sell it.
Well, I was gonna ask you, making sure you understood.
Yes,
It's
sir,
gonna hit you pretty hard on,
Yes, sir, I understand it.
okay, just wanna make sure.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wicks?
Yeah, being that this is another application to rezone from an agricultural to a residential, I wanted to give some information from the school system perspective. We understand from a school system perspective, we are a residential county. We know that there are a tremendous amount of residential areas, and we know that kind of the bread and butter of Paulding County currently is residential houses. But with that said, the issue that we have is it is no secret that this area of the county is the most populated and the fastest growing area of the county that we have. So the current parcel that is in question, it is currently zoned or districted for the North Side Elementary School zone, which North Side currently sits at 89% capacity. Moses Middle School, that sits at 88% capacity. And then, of course, North Paulding High School. And North Paulding High School currently sitting at 145% capacity. So with that, we are currently in the process of building a 20 classroom addition at Northside. We have just recently built a 22 classroom addition at Moses that opened in FY21, August of 2021. And we are currently building a 40 classroom addition at North Paulding High School. And the 40 classroom addition at North Paulding High School is really not going to be able to accept the capacity that we have got of the future growth. That is to help accommodate with what we currently got. But of course, with budgetary constraints, things happen. So with the addition of any house that we have, whether or not it's 1, 2, 10, 50, 60, the old adage goes that a penny adds up to $1. And so with this, you have the project or the forecasted of adding additional kids to our schools, which are already over capacity or reaching capacity. And because when I say Northside's at 89% capacity and we have a 20 classroom addition, the issue is we have other schools in the area that we're having to look at redistricting right now, because your Abney Elementary is over 100%. Shelton Elementary is over 100%. Russell is rapidly growing to over 100%. We just put a 20 classroom addition at Burnt Hickory, which is over 100%. So again, we have a tremendous amount of resources and we have a tremendous amount of effort to accommodate for the growth that we have. So any growth, additional growth in an area that is already populated and already permitted for additional population is difficult to accommodate in whatever capacity it is, whether or not it's 1, 2, or 10 homes.
Thank you. Are there any other questions to the applicant? There is one stipulation that was recommended by staff, which is the owner or developer acknowledges the type and location of access for the proposed development shall be determined during the plan review process. It's a fairly standard stipulation. Just wanted to make sure you knew about it and you agreed to that. In other words, they'll tell you where the driveways are going to be.
Yeah, I got
through
already
the
seen
plan review process.
a drawing.
Okay, just making sure. Are there any questions from the Board of Commissioners? Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Okay.
Is there anybody else here that wishes to speak on behalf of this application? Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in opposition to the application, or may have questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion on application 2024-20-Z.
Make a motion to approve with one stipulation.
I have a motion to approve from Mr. Aston with one stipulation. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Callahan. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes 5-1 and 1. All right, and the last item on the agenda is adjournment. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion so moved by Mr. Steele.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wicks. All in favor? Motion passes 6-0 and 1.